Et on a eu beaucoup de questions, donc on va prendre les questions premièrement et après ça, on va ouvrir à tout le monde. John va expliquer un peu en détail.
Okay, merci Michelle. Thank you everyone for coming. Bienvenue à toutes et à tous. On va procéder principalement en anglais. Alors, si vous avez besoin d'une traduction, veuillez lever la main et quelqu'un du programme Connecteurs va vous assister. Nous avons 2 traductrices ici ce soir et elles peuvent vous aider.
No? 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 Everybody understands English?
No, English.
No?
What do you think?
Okay, go ahead. Sorry. Did you, I don't know what you asked.
Okay, Okay, all right. Okay.
No. Did you ask if anybody needs translation?
Oui,
So if anybody needs translation, raise your hand.
oui. Si vous avez besoin d'une traduction, veuillez lever la main.
Into French. Into French.
Ou en français. Traduction en français seulement.
Espagnol.
Alors, on va here to answer your questions finding a job in Sud-Est. We have 6 HR experts, and I believe that is a whole hockey team. This is truly an all-star lineup. These professionals have years of experience across various industries, and they are ready to follow the puck wherever it goes tonight. Okay? Il s'agit d'une équipe d'étoiles. Ils sont prêts à répondre à toutes les questions. Okay. So we have some very brief introductions because each of these people has a CV that would be pages and pages, and we know that you want to get right to the questions. Okay? So I'll just quickly introduce folks, starting with Seema. Seema Eskandari works both in HR operations and organizational development in Irving. She's an executive coach, and she enjoys Persian dance and loves living on the East Coast. So Seema travaille à la fois en intégration des ressources humaines et en développement organisationnel chez Irving. Elle est coach exécutive, elle aime la danse perse, et elle est très heureuse de vivre dans le net et très heureuse. Okay. And next to Seema, we have Allison Friesford, who has a CPHR designation, and she's managing director with the Multicultural Agency of the Greater Moncton area, who many of you probably know as MAGMA. She also says she loves concerts and enjoys food with her 2 sons. So Allison est directrice générale de l'Agence multiculturelle du Grand Moncton, accro au concert, passionnée de bonne bouffe et maman de 2 garçons. Okay. Next to Allison, we have Balaj Bognar, who describes himself as a people and business supporter, an amateur car racer, a hockey and chess player. Soutien aux personnes et aux entreprises, coureur automobile amateur, joueur de hockey et d'échecs. Okay. Next to Balaj, we have Carolyn, who says she's a human connector, and she's founder of Watson HR Consulting, where leadership, culture, and engagement meet. Fun fact about Allison, she loves to play ultimate frisbee. Carolyn, sorry, loves to play frisbee. So Carolyn est connectrice humaine et fondatrice de Watson HR Consulting à l'intersection du leadership, de la culture et de l'engagement. Elle adore jouer au ultimate frisbee. Okay. transférée depuis 13 ans. Et elle est là pour la vie. Elle est avant active de ce garçon énergie. Okay. And next to me is Bev Summers, who also has a CPHR designation and is co-founder of Smart HR Solutions. Bev is a baker, a bird lover, and a summer bookworm. She also loves garlic fingers and spicy chips when filmed. So you want to bring the panel a snack down and you know what to get. Okay. So Bev, comme Allison, et CRHA, elle est cofondatrice de Smart HR Solutions. Elle est aussi boulangère, amatrice d'oiseaux et grande lectrice estivale. Elle adore les doigts à l'ail et les chips épicés avec du lait. All right. Now, this will be a rapid fire discussion. As you know, everyone who registered had the opportunity to suggest a question, and we received more than 40 questions. Okay? So nous allons discuter rapidement ces questions because we want to get through as many as we can. And the reason we're proceeding in English is because we want to get through as many of these questions as possible. Okay? After our panel discussion, I'll then open the floor to questions, and I invite you to ask your question in either French or English. Then you'll have the chance to do some networking. So, on aura une période de questions, puis du temps pour le réseautage. Okay. So, let's get started. So I have in front of me here my dashboard, which shows all of the questions. And we won't hear from every panelist on every question. I will invite our panelists to contribute, but then, of course, jump in if you want to say something. And, you know, a lot of these questions, I know are questions that many of us wish there were a simple answer to, like a yes, no, do this, do that. And I think some of these on the list may fall into that category, but in a lot of cases, I think the answer is going to be something like, it depends, right? And so you may even find this evening that we get a little bit of debate going, because people have had different experiences, bring different perspectives. At the end of the day, a lot of your success will come down to forming relationships with people who can help you navigate the path, because there's no one single path, no one single piece of advice that will do the job. So let's start with the big question. Let's start with the biggie here. Advice for somebody who's transitioning from one career or field to another. So Carolyn, why don't you get us started on that?
All right, you can hear me?
Yeah.
All right, so the question is advice for if you're transitioning from one role to a different tech role, a different.
Yeah, it could even be that somebody's transitioning to a different industry,
Right.
Either coming from
Yeah.
another country.
Right.
Yeah.
And from what I've seen, and from working with Kat as well, and hearing from her and from a lot of people who are newcomers, the question is, how do I, I've got the specific knowledge, and I want to, this is where I'm, back where I'm from, maybe you need to have specific knowledge, and this is where you go. Here in Canada, it's not exactly the same thing. We have what we call transferable skills. So transferable skills would be if you have a specific set of knowledge and experience in an industry or in a specific job, it doesn't mean that you're, that you can't work anywhere else. That counts for something. So employers will look at your experiences, draw the correlations or the similarities between your past experience and to this new role. So don't tell yourself, well, I've not worked in that specific job in that specific title. You look at the description in terms of what they're looking for in terms of skills, and then you say, well, I've done those things, very similar, so that's transferable skills. And that's where, so don't shut the door, keep on looking, look further and see, like, if I can find some similarities there, and I feel confident that I can do something like this, don't look at the titles. And during the interview, you can use those experiences, and they will be able to decipher for themselves if it's something that is a good fit, that is a transferable skill.
Thank you. Yes. Yeah, well, yes, that would be great, and I'll ask you to weigh in as well, Seema. Yeah.
So I'll just, I love examples, and so I work for the Lounsbury Group, so for those that don't know, we're primarily an automotive group. So people, us in the car business, we love people from banking and from the hotel industry. So if you're new here and looking for a role that is very customer service friendly, if you've worked in banking or in the hotel business, we love to talk to you because those two industries give really, really good training on customer service skills. So that's a transferable skill, just because you've never worked in the automotive business, but if you've worked in another high customer service industry, I will absolutely look at your resume.
Thank you. Seema, how about you? So you're in Irving. Irving would have a wide variety of roles. So any advice or examples to share from your perspective? Any input?
Okay. So for sure that my answer is the same as the others, that really you need to look at your transferable skills, but also in Irving, as Michelle mentioned about her industry, we have a lot of manufacturing businesses. So I know some of the very specific jobs we need, maybe for example, food manufacturing or tissue manufacturing. But a lot of times I can tell you roughly more than 85% of the time, if you work in manufacturing, you have a lot of transferable skills already that you can apply. And you really shouldn't look only for exactly that you need to check all the boxes. As long as you can get 60-70% of the job covered, you still can apply for the job. So that's why really look at your transferables and don't lose hope and just try. And I all the time mention that what are you going to lose? You are going to be staying in the same role that you are today, or the same position you are today. You still can apply and try to see whether you receive any call for interview, or you are going to attract the attention of the hiring managers and the recruiters.
Thank you. Carolyn, you talked about making correlations. I often call that connecting the dots. And of course, yes, when you get to the interview, the employer will start to see that if you share the appropriate stories. But in the process of getting to the interview, as the job applicant, you have to do some of those connecting the dots. So one of the questions we have is, how do you show your potential if you've got all these great transferable skills, but you don't really feel like you have a perfect resume? So, Allison, I'm wondering whether you could talk a little bit to that.
So, one of the things that I HR nerd out about is doing CVs for people. I love doing it because it's like telling your story. And what I always recommend to people when I talk to them about their Canadian CV, you want to paint a story for people. So if your story has begun in another country, I always recommend, tell them a little bit about where it was that you worked. Just a line. I worked for this company. For example, I was helping someone with a hospitality resume, and they helped open a 5-star hotel in Abu Dhabi. It had 3,000 hotel rooms. It was this and this. There's no way for us to know in Canada that unless the employer takes the time to go in and Google it. Save it, spoon feed that to them, say this is where I worked. It had 8,000 hotel rooms, it had this many staff members, this is where it was. You can even put the website link. That's one way to do it, but you always want to look at your resume. Is it completing the story? If I hand it to someone, are they getting a story from me about what my whole, not just your career, but your interests, your languages? That's always another thing that I always see a lot is people think because they're not bilingual French and English not to put their languages on there, but now we are in such a multicultural environment, and particularly at a place like Magma, we need those other languages. If you speak 3 or 4 or 5 languages and they're not English or French, we can use that. So,
thank you. I'm wondering, when you're looking at play. I worked years ago for a fellow in the learning company, and the thing he would look for was what he called fire in the belly. Like, he wanted somebody showing up who didn't just want a job, but was really passionate about helping people learn using innovative technology. So I'm just wondering if there may be, did you take that one?
Sure. So I guess with that, one way that I love to see passion come out in people is when I see on your resume that you volunteered. So volunteering for me is something that I look for a lot because it shows passion and heart beyond the industry that you're working in. So if you haven't connected yourself or aligned yourself with an organization from a volunteer perspective, then I encourage you to do so. And there are tons of volunteer opportunities out there. So, and you just need to ask. And LinkedIn posts a lot of volunteer opportunities, not as many as there are out there, but there are some great opportunities. It doesn't have to be sitting on a board. Sometimes it can just be, I don't know, throw out different volunteer opportunities. I'm sure we could all, the Y, there's a soup kitchen on Saturday helping to, serve food. Anyway, tons of opportunities. So 100% align yourself with some volunteer opportunities. That shows passion. I think some of the other ways to show potential is through doing, activities like this, getting out and meeting people, and sharing your stories, and just making that connection with people. And then I'm a big fan of LinkedIn. I know not everybody has time, and we don't spend all of our time on LinkedIn, but when you have that as part of your, on your resume, as Allison said, when you put that on your resume, if I click on your profile and it shows the last time you were active on LinkedIn was 4 months ago, and there's nothing new to talk about your story or to share anything about the things that you've been up to or involved in, then it's hard for me to get to know you because we can't be at all the networking activities together. There's so many out there. So keep your LinkedIn active and up to date, get out and volunteer, and try to get to as many networking events as possible.
Thank you. Yeah, one of the advantages of being active on LinkedIn is, you see people posting, and I often say, gee, isn't that fascinating how that person ended up in that role? Because you kind of skim the person's profile. If you look at my profile, I tell people constantly I'm totally unqualified for the work I do. That gives you ideas sometimes as well, like, oh, look how that person transitioned or pivoted. I wonder if I could do something similar. So why don't we, since you brought up LinkedIn, Bev, why don't we pivot a little bit to that topic? Barrage, what are some of your tips about networking on LinkedIn?
Now works. Thank you. So networking LinkedIn, I think that's the key. I'm LinkedIn presence now. So I have a colleague. I just recently changed them. I have a colleague who was doing, I think, multiple 100 courses on LinkedIn and posted it. And this is what I was seeing day by day. And this is how people can be in front of everybody, I'm sure. Like to the topic that to be active on LinkedIn, I think so this is the key. I receive daily basis resumes on LinkedIn. So we post all of our jobs are posted on LinkedIn, so I really suggest to scroll it, search for it. It's a little bit tricky, I know a couple outdated jobs you can find there, but to find HR people, to reach out to people, this is my suggestion, to show that you are there in the market.
Okay. Yes, thank you for that. Et je suis très désolée, j'avais l'intention de poser des questions en anglais et français. Je oubliais. Okay. Alors, here's a follow-up question, and I wonder, Seema, you work for a large organization that everybody in New Brunswick has heard of, Irving. I'm guessing that you see a lot question we have is it okay to connect with a human resource professional on LinkedIn and send a resume? Est-il acceptable de contacter les ressources humaines sur LinkedIn et d'envoyer son CV directement?
Yeah, absolutely is okay. That you need only to find the right HR person in our organization. And a lot of times I know different people here that we connect together. I all the time try to connect with you and I let you know that first apply for the role that you like, then send me a note. I let you know who is the hiring, the HR person or recruiter for that. This lovely lady who sits here is one of the recruiters for a lot of jobs that we have in Urban Consumer Products. So basically that I can try to connect that, to give the name, and I ask all the time, I mention to them, to each of you, that just send a note on LinkedIn to connect with that individual and send a note that you let them know that you are interested and you would like to have the opportunity to present yourself and to show that you know that why you're a great fit for this role. So that's why it's for sure, it's really not, it's more than okay, it's totally acceptable, and also is a sign that you are showing your passion, that you are interested about the job and you go above and beyond that only sitting and praying for the job, that to get a call. So you are going above and beyond to bring your resume and from that file to put it on the top of that file, basically. So it's totally okay to do that.
Thank you. Yes, hop in. And I wonder, I'm also really curious about something that you raised there, is that there's never just one HR door. And I see a lot of people who kind of try the front door, it's locked, or they don't have the key, they can't get in. So I would be curious also to hear kind of about other ways you find that, knowing there are multiple recruiters, like that's something in itself, right? But jump in.
I just wanted, this is where maybe there's different opinions, different perspectives, and so I agree absolutely with Seema that there is nothing wrong, and in fact, you have nothing to lose by reaching out to individuals on LinkedIn, HR individuals. I want to, but what I would add to that is if you want to get to the right person, it's not just sending like a generic email. It's always better and more effective if you reach someone on LinkedIn through someone who made the introduction. I can speak personally that, you know, if I have someone, a colleague or someone that I know says, you need to meet this person, especially through the Connector program, you're gonna get my attention immediately. But if you're not, if it's just a random, and I get a lot. So if it's a random, and I feel terrible because I can't always keep up with those emails. Now, send a request to connect with me on LinkedIn, absolutely, that takes one click. But if you send me a message, I may not respond, just because I get a lot of requests. So it depends on the person, and this is one of those, it depends. It depends on who you're reaching out to. I'm an HR consultant, and I don't just have recruitment. So I have other things that I have in my line of work. But other people who are recruiters, they obviously would probably. So I can't speak for everyone in human resources, but I would also just add, and then I'll stop talking. I will just add that it's not just HR people that you should reach out to. Target the organizations that you see, and if you know someone, reach out to that person and say, hey, you know, I see you work here, this looks like a great company, and start from that person. It's not, HR is not all necessarily always the first step into making that contact.
Just to add to that, actually, sometimes the messages just to connect are difficult, as Sterling said, because it's hard to keep up. We're also trying to get new business ourselves. We're running businesses. It's not just recruitment. But one of the easy ways, or one of the things I love the most is when somebody reaches out and says, hey, I applied for a job at Lounsbury's. Do you know the HR person there or somebody there that you could connect me with? That is a super easy ask. I'm like, actually, I know Michelle. I'll send you the name, I'll send Michelle a message, or I'll flip over your resume. Done. Doesn't mean we have to go and, we have to meet up or that we have to do, any amount of work. So asking somebody, do you know of anybody who works there in HR or in any other capacity is an excellent question. Because they'll either say yes or no, and that's a quick yes or no again for me is, I'm sorry I don't, or absolutely I do, and, I'll take that call to action. The other thing that I, just to add to the LinkedIn comments too, the messages do get buried, but what doesn't get buried are likes and comments to posts. Those get noticed, and those show up a lot better and easier, and it shows that you're active and it shows that you're engaging in content. And the other thing I'll say to that is, back to what I said earlier, how if your LinkedIn profile hasn't been updated in a while, I do notice that, but I would suggest that you add to your profile or add to your post like you're a business owner of sorts. So post about your industry, show that you're an expert in your industry, share something to add value to the people that are stopping to look at your posts. And then when you become known for being an expert in your area, people see your posts and see you're active, and it can be, posting a picture about tonight and something that came of tonight. Actually, that makes me think of AI, and I don't think we're even getting into AI tonight, but just take out the dash, take out the dashes. Anybody know what I mean? And put the emoji at the front of your sentence, not at the end. It's all good. I love AI. I love it. I use ChatGPT for sure, but it is a guide. But the other thing is to keep it simple, right? Just to keep it simple, but definitely to use it. LinkedIn as a tool.
Yeah, I'll make a comment as a non-HR person and throw it out there for you to comment on. Non-HR person, but someone who's on LinkedIn. It seems to me that LinkedIn is ultimately not a giant billboard or a giant bulletin board, but it really is a place where people engage and start building relationships. I have really good friends now who live in other cities, and we connected just through commenting on each other's posts. So how does somebody approach an HR professional in a way that is about building a relationship rather than just treating the HR person as a mailbox? Like if I were to reach out and to connect with you, for instance, what would a good connection request look like that would get your attention? Yes, see what you could.
I think one of the ways that to see that what are the events in town that to come and see people in person. And for sure when you see people in person that, a lot of time when the face and name is coming all together next to each other, we can remember the people better. And I think it's a better idea. So I find myself the 2 jobs in Canada. I'm immigrant to this country, as you can guess from my accent and my name. I came 10 years ago. 2 jobs that I find in this city. One of them was through meeting the person in one of the events. It was about MB adoption. I wasn't really much looking for adopting a child at that time, but I knew that person that I need to meet is in that event. And I was facing that person basically through his LinkedIn profile, and I met that person in Delta Hotel. And I remember when he saw me, he said, "Oh wow, what are you doing? You are everywhere." I said, "Yeah, I'm here. I should be everywhere." So I knew that you're here. I came to see you. I didn't have to adopt any child for sure. I want to see you. And the other part, the second job in Irving that today I'm in, I can tell you that I applied 2 times once, and they post the job as a director of organization development in Irving Consumer Product 3 times, and nobody contacted me. So, and I wasn't shortlisted. I tried to find the hiring manager for the role, who is my future boss and current boss today. So I found him in LinkedIn, and as soon as I sent him a note that I applied for this job, and I noticed that you posted the job again, I'm assuming that you haven't filled this vacancy. And he contacted me and called back me respond to me basically in 30 minutes. So and then there you go, I'm in Irving. But basically, that was a lot of assumption that, no, it's no way that I can go to earning. So I have a very long family name, guys, as you can see, it's 13 letters. It's not and it's not English. It's not attracting a lot of employers' names, funds, basically. They are not saying, oh, who is this person coming from? But I attracted his attention by reaching out to him in LinkedIn, and I met another person that basically HR person and a hiring manager in the event. So that's why I put some efforts that try to follow that person, as Bev mentioned in LinkedIn, to basically, when you look at their comments and different things, you can see that what are the type of interests they have, which type of events they participate, and you can go and participate and see them in person.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing part of your story. So, there may be some people here tonight saying, well, yes, that's all well good for SEMA, but in my situation, and my immigration status, for instance, with my CV, what does this really look like? So I want to explore some questions about the hiring process, and we have some particular questions relating to immigration status and Canadian experience, because I know that those are often things that people either perceive or experience as barriers. So the first question here, I think, is another connecting the dots question. How well do employers understand the immigration requirements for open work permit holders? Les employeurs comprennent-ils bien les exigences liées au permis de travail ouvert? We had, Michelle, that's something you said you were going to say.
Yeah, I can answer that. We don't know that much, I'm going to be totally honest. Like, we really don't. And until we have an employee that we need to live it with, we don't know that much about it. And the reason we don't is that it is really hard to learn about it. I have attended any seminar, in person or online, that I can to talk about the immigration process, to learn about AIP, to learn about PIP, and I know nothing. And part of the reason, I hope there's no lawyers in the room, part of it is lawyers suck at explaining it. They miss a whole step. They jump right to the real legal aspect of it, and you're like, you're not explaining anything to me. So I've learned about it more in the past couple of months, only because I have an employee that's on the verge of deportation, just because they didn't do the proper paperwork, and I, luckily enough, hounded someone at the province of New Brunswick, and they were really, really nice, and they educated me. But that's how I learned. So we don't know that much about it, but we want to. So if you're willing to teach us a little bit as you go through the process, like, don't expect us to know everything. And again, it's not because we don't want to. Service Canada website does not explain it very well, and I can read something, and another person can read something, and we interpret it two very different ways. The one thing I do know is if you have an open work permit, I can hire you. So that's great. If you have a closed work permit, I can't. So I know that. We're okay with hiring people on an open work permit, and then we will go through AIP or PIP. We'll write, one employee, I think I wrote her 15 letters of employment. Like, I just changed the date. Like, I don't care. I'll rewrite it as many times as you need it. I'll fill out the paperwork as many times as you need it, because I know that this process is much more difficult for you than it is me signing a piece of paper. So as long as you're okay with kind of us learning it together, I'm okay hiring people with an open work permit. You know, I'm gonna ask you for a copy of it. I wanna know the expiration date with this employee who's hopefully not going to be deported. I've learned that I need to ask for more information because it's not their fault. Like, they thought they were doing something right and they missed a filing they didn't even understand. So we're happy to help, but don't expect us to know everything. And again, it's not because we don't want to, it's just really, really hard to learn what the process is. Now, I know there's some companies that do LMIAs and they go through this, like if you were to talk to someone who maybe runs a McDonald's, they might know a whole lot better than I do. But some other companies who, Urban, you guys might know about it a whole lot more, so maybe I shouldn't be answering this question, Seema. Why don't you answer it?
No, we have for sure the two types of employers that in Irving, because we are so large, we have to have a department for immigration, and a lot of our HR team and the recruiters, they get trained and updated by the immigration rules. So because keeping yourself updated on the immigration rules and regulation is not as easy, especially when you already finish your immigration journey and you don't really you don't need it to go to the details of it. You can remember the high level of it. So as Michelle said, that it's not as easy to be on the top of it, but for larger organizations like Irving, we already have a department and they are educating us, and we have a lot of regulations and audits and everything to keep track of the records of all of those immigrants that we hired. Basically, we need to be on the top of it, basically. Yeah. Sure.
I just want to add something, Dawn. So obviously I work at Magma. We are a settlement agency. We are not immigration specialists, just so everybody knows that. People come and ask us the questions. I have done with my colleague FF a lot of VIPs, we've done LMIAs, we've done postgraduate work permits. Everything we've learned, as Michelle said, we have learned on our own, or we've started it and there's been an issue, we have to call IRCC or we have to call IMB and say what is happening. We work obviously very closely with immigration, IRCC and the province. It is very, very complicated. The one thing that I want to encourage everyone in this room is that you need to take ownership of also your journey coming to Canada. It's not perfect. Right now the system is up, down, all over the place. We have changes coming all the time, but I can't encourage you enough. Yes, your HR people and your employers and people are here to support you on that, but it's really, really important that you also own your own journey. I can't say that enough. It's not enough for you to show up at Magma and say, in a month my work permit is expiring and I'm getting sent home. Like, that's not the time to do it. Like, as soon as you arrive or you have colleagues or friends that arrive, start planning what that's going to look like, because right now, as we all know, there's things that are changing, every day. So.
Yeah. Just so that Michelle knows how to hire people in open work permit. I'm sure I was there 3 years ago as a candidate, so she knows the open work permit because I am confused. One more thing, don't expect that HR people knows the regulations, daily basis. I can't, as an immigrant, I can't follow. So as we know, my company belongs to Irving as well. So our lawyers are thinking they know how to solve tricky issues. So yes, be your own advisor or find some advisor. So don't expect that somebody can help you.
Thank you. And I think that advice also holds true once you get into the Canadian workplace. I've done onboarding programs for large organizations, and I've worked with students transitioning into the workplace, and that's constantly a theme that comes across. And here in Canada, it is about owning your, not just your immigration journey, but also owning your career journey. Along that same theme, why is Canadian experience so important? And what is considered Canadian experience? I think we've touched on this issue a little bit. Allison, you talked about describing experience outside of Canada in very concrete ways. So what ticks that box, and why is it so important that you have Canadian experience?
Do you want me to answer?
Sure, yes. You can jump in. Michelle, if you want to.
Go ahead, Michelle.
No, you go first. I went first last time.
So Canadian experience, for sure, that is mostly important from the standpoint that you know the culture and you know how that the culture that you are working is different than our culture that we came from. any culture that you came from. So everything can consider as a Canadian experience. Jeff mentioned about voluntary activities. These are all considered as a Canadian experience. I remember first year that I was here, I worked with United Way a lot, I worked with Magma a lot, in a lot of different voluntary activities. These considered as having exposure to Canadian environment. So it's not all the time needs to sign a contract and having an offer that you have that exposure. And for some of the jobs, can be a little bit more important than the others, especially those jobs, for example, for me and in HR, I continuously working with people. So culture is really much involved. But if I was an engineer and working with a lot of system and machines, for sure that is not as much, that important for the first job. But each of us, we need to start from somewhere. When we've never lived in Canada, we couldn't have Canadian experience. So the best way is that to get yourself exposure to any opportunity that you can find, whether paid or unpaid, that to learn about the people and show curiosity and learn about this culture that we are in. Because clearly we are in minority as immigrants here. The majority is Canadian, and we need to learn from this culture. And anyway, even Canadians are very welcoming, so they invite you to their house. Just go there and try to sit with them and learn about their culture and ask them questions. They are very interested to explain us about their traditions, their culture, and what they think and what are some of their beliefs. So it's as easy as this. The Canadian experience could be just going to one Canadian house and having a nice coffee or a good drink, basically.
Thank you. Michelle, do you want to jump in?
That was I don't have too much more to add. It's the culture piece. I'm trying to say, how do I say this like really nicely? So you're gonna come in and we want to teach you about the job, but I don't want to teach you it's important to be on time. Do you know what I mean? Like, I guess that's a culture piece. Like, I want you to already know that. And I don't know if that sounds simplistic for me, but I guess that's the culture piece of, we want to teach you how to do the job. I'm not teach you the other stuff. I don't know. I guess that's the big piece of it. Yeah. And it shows that you're interested in the Canadian experience piece. I know we're going to get to the McDonald's question. I don't want to jump ahead. Yeah. You want me to?
Yeah, take McDonald's.
So what, Kat, how many times was it asked, do I put my McDonald's or Walmart resume?
Multiple times.
Experience on my resume?
Multiple times.
So my advice is absolutely, 100%. I met with a connectee a few weeks ago, and their last job on their resume was 2019. But they've been here since 2019. And they had all this work experience, and they didn't put it on because it was Walmart type work, and so they didn't put that. And someone talked about how your resume tells a story. Working at McDonald's or Walmart is part of your story. Now, you don't need to come up with an elaborate job title, and you don't even need to put what you, like the job task, like cashier. I don't need you to write took money, exchange, paid with credit card. Like, I know what a cashier is, everyone does. But it shows that you have been doing something. Like, otherwise you're just leaving a really blank question mark, and your resume, to me, is my first time meeting you, and I see a lot of resumes in a day. And so if I'm gonna look at 30 resumes in one day, you need to tell your story fast. It's just like meeting someone in person, and what's the line we judge someone? Like we judge someone kind of within the first 30 seconds that we meet them. Like, your resume is no different. 6 seconds. Yeah. Like, I look at a resume, and if it just says 2019, I'm like, oh my gosh, what have they been doing? Now I need to figure that out. Like, I don't want to figure that out. That's your job. You're applying for the job, do your part. Make sure your resume is up to date, and any experience is good experience. And I'm also a big, like, we're going to get into resume stuff, but I'm really picky about resumes because I think it's your one shot. I'm really, like, in Canadian culture, chronological resumes are really impactful. So I was interviewing a candidate this week, and their last experience showed 2023. I'm like, okay, well, that's not that long ago, I can figure it out. Their Canadian experience was at the bottom of the resume because it wasn't relevant to the job they're applying for, so they put it down there. No. Like, if you're gonna write a chronological resume, write a chronological resume. Like, take that and put it at the top and show me that you're working. Like, if you're gonna pick a format, stick to it. And we recruiters in Canada, we like timelines. Like, that's the way the resumes are written here. So I know a lot of times it can be written based on the skill or the job you're applying for. But any experience is good experience, and we like that timeline. That's the way we read the story of your resume. Did I make my point? Can you tell I'm passionate about resumes?
Yeah, we have a whole category coming up.
Can I just add to that? I'm gonna debate Michelle a little bit.
Oh, love it.
So, the funny thing is, even Canadians don't show up to work on time,
Oh, yeah, that's true.
okay? So, I look at this as an onboarding issue, not your issue. So Michelle says it's your job to figure out kind of when should I show up, and to be honest, she's not gonna teach.
I don't want to teach it to you. I'm busy. I have a job to do. I don't want to teach it to you.
But I think it is our job to teach all employees, I don't care where you're from. It is an employer's job to teach new employees, not just the job, but the rules of the job. We're gonna get to that question later about the norms of the organization, right? It's the employer's job to teach you that, to not let you fail, and to not make you have to think of everything. So I like to say to employers, build your onboarding process by asking employees, what do you wish you had known on your first few days here? Build this frequently asked questions. Share it with everybody. It's not just newcomers who struggle with this stuff. We have other employees coming to new organizations and they bring bad habits with them from other organizations. It was okay to be 10 minutes late at my other organization. Well, it's not okay here, then let the employee know it's not okay here. So I do think it's the employer's responsibility to figure that out, and that's the work that I do as an HR consultant, is I try to help them help set their employees up for greater success. So it is your job. We're the HRBF, so it's all of employers' jobs to do a better job. One thing I will say, not to stay on this topic, but I will say onboarding with newcomers has really opened my eyes as to the terrible job we were doing onboarding employees before. So thank you. I think you have really highlighted the importance of being a little more clear, intentional, and compassionate in how we welcome employees into our companies.
Thank you for holding me accountable, and I have taken away so much from this. I admit when I'm wrong.
Well, I think
What she said.
when it comes to workplace,
It's just one thing, and I'm in the middle. I think it's both. We're responsible as employers, but you're responsible as employees as well to ask the question.
yeah, I think when it comes to culture, when you are in a culture, to me it's like a fish being in water. You're swimming around, you don't always know what you're swimming in, and it can take going to another culture to recognize that, oh, we think of time in 5-minute chunks here. In Nigeria, the chunks are longer, or in other parts of the world. So I wonder if we could just quickly give folks a sense of what is different about working in Canada versus working in, and I'm going to actually ask you to be even more specific and talk about working in New Brunswick. Because to me, as somebody who works across the country, there's a big difference between working in downtown Moncton and working downtown Toronto or downtown Vancouver. So I wonder if we could do kind of a lightning round on this one, and just maybe start at the end, and everybody give one example of a cultural norm that is different in New Brunswick versus other parts of the world. So just a lightning round.
So I have one that is all the time, I'm trying to learn, and I get better after 10 years, is that the Canadians, all of you that are in this room, we are very polite. And you are very hesitant to share that, that some of the difficult conversation with your employees. So, and this hesitation doesn't get the right message to the employee, no matter it's Canadian or is a newcomer or immigrant. So I think that this is for me the biggest adjustment that I learned in HR, that how to adjust my tone in a way that I don't want to crush the hopes and dreams of people or crush their, that whatever who they are. I totally respect them, but I think each of us as a human, we deserve to know the truth.
Yeah.
And if we are blindsided about it, somebody should tell us. If we know, and we can tell still each other very polite way.
Yeah.
But I find that the New Brunswick culture, I didn't live any part of Canada. I just came from first day 10 years ago to Moncton. In New Brunswick, they are super loveliest people that I met in my life. I truly have a lot of great friends. And only I wish that I try to influence, of course, even though that I'm a minority. So
Yeah.
I try to influence that to have a little bit less hesitation and share the message very clearly and politely to people.
So directness or indirectness, that's
Yeah,
like culture. Yeah.
I'm coaching on a lot of Canadian leaders in a daily basis that in my job, that how to have the clear conversation with your employees, whether they are Canadian employee or non-Canadian. So
Thank
it's
you.
really important.
Thank you. So that's something different about working in New Brunswick.
Yeah. I'm always talking about food, so I'm going to continue with that. So a lot of New Brunswickers, Canadians, we don't eat lunch. We eat lunch at our desk. We do not eat lunch together. It's not a community event. What I have learned working at Magma is if someone comes and I eat lunch with them and they bring me food, that I better darn eat it, because they will tell me if it's too spicy for my Canadian sensibilities. But it is amazing to me how much working with people from all over the world has improved how I eat lunch, and I think we all should work on that.
Okay. Thank you. Solange?
I am a newcomer, so I feel many things that's different here, which I saw before. My colleague says that I am almost Canadian. I say sorry every sentence, so that's I shouldn't. I know. So like the culture. So I'm coming from Middle Europe, Hungary, and fast-paced environment. Back in Europe, it's totally different from what I see here. So it's laid back. Not everybody is running and rushing, so don't expect that one.
Yes, that's a big difference between this part of the country and the other parts of the country. Thanks, Carol.
Well, SEMA, I had the same as SEMA. The first thing is having met groups that aren't from New Brunswick or from Canada, a lot of the comments are, I'm not getting any feedback, and because we are friendly. We're very, very friendly, especially in the Maritimes, but we are afraid of getting little feedback. So sometimes you don't know where you stand. So ask and try to get the information. Don't just wait for them to come and see you. And the other thing is, in New Brunswick specifically, so the difference within what's different in New Brunswick is there's an expression. It's 6 degrees of separation. I'm not sure if you've heard of it. It's like, if you know someone, you likely know someone who knows someone like within 6 people. In Moncton, it's like 2 degrees of separation. So I'm a fan of LinkedIn, but I'm also a huge fan of networking. So, and it can be through events, and we've talked about it, so I won't go on, but just trying to get to know your fellow Canadian colleague or neighbor, and because we're big on getting to know, on being friendly.
So my work experience is in Moncton, and I lived in Toronto for a number of years. And when I moved to Moncton, I couldn't believe how people said they were busy and overworked. And I had to not laugh in their face because I was like, you don't know. Like, you don't know. No. Like in Toronto, I didn't even have that bad of a commute. It was only 50 minutes by transit. And then I eventually got a car, but I worked till 7 or 7:30 so that I could drive home in no traffic. And you were go, go, go all the time because there was a laundry list of people ready to take your job. So I came here, and when at 5 o'clock, I remember my first day, like at 5 o'clock, everyone walking out the door together. I was like, what is happening? This is amazing. And then now where I work, it's 2.2 kilometers from my driveway to my parking space. Like I go home for lunch. So, and then people here say, I'm busy, I'm overworked, and then I try to be nice, you don't want to be disrespectful, but we're like, no, you came to work and you did your job, you have to leave on time, like it's amazing. So the work-life balance here really truly exists, and I'm not moving back to Toronto.
My work experience is only here, but I do have some examples of things that I've heard, and I'll use one specific one that we actually heard last week or 2 weeks ago. We were in St. John speaking to a newcomer group with the YMCA, and one of the questions came up about who pays when you go out to eat. So I don't know if anybody's experienced this, but you've been invited out to eat by an employer or a colleague, and there's an uncertainty about who pays, and I don't have the perfect answer, but has anybody experienced this or questioned this, or has it been an issue? No, not an issue. Okay, it was an issue in the other group, and it is interesting. So we just debated that a little bit, that if you're invited out to lunch or to dinner, then it's assumed that that person will pay. If you're invited to join a group of people, hey, we're going out for lunch, would you like to join us? In that case, you would be expected to pay, because I think there was you pay your own, sorry, just your own. Not the group. Pay your own. So it's interesting, and actually I'll use an example of Carolyn and I. So Carolyn and I meet with my colleagues on a regular basis for lunch, and one of the first times we kind of started to make a tradition, we sat down and I just said to Carolyn, okay, let's just get it out on the table now. Whenever we go out, we'll each pay for our own dinner. Okay? Done. And we moved on. So I thought that was an interesting, just that paying, and whether you pay for the group or what the expectation is. So anyway, it's not a New Brunswick thing, but I think it's a cultural. It came up as a cultural.
Thank you. It's the kind of thing that can make the person feel very awkward. They kind of never know how to play the game, right? Just before we leave this topic and move on, Michelle, to resume nitpicking, I want to ask a question related to speaking up and raising new ideas. So this is just, again, non-HR person, just coming from my own experience. I would say that many of the organizations here in New Brunswick are what I would call quite flat in terms of their organizational structure. So I can walk in thinking of one of my clients, he's got hundreds of employees, but everybody would walk in and call by his first name, his door is always open. And I know I've worked with people who come from other cultures where there's much more of a hierarchy. And I had one colleague in particular who was Cambodian and had spent a lot of years in Korea. And when he came into the organization where I was working, we would have these team meetings, and we were, tossing around crazy ideas, and could we do this, and could we do that, and we're joking around. And he was silent because he was not used to being in an environment where it was okay for him as a person down here to say anything to the CEO. And so I just wondered if anybody has anything to say about that.
Yeah, for sure, the culture of organizations are different. The culture of organizations are different, but in general, I work in Irving that is more hierarchical, and I work in an organization like Grayson Energy System that is more flat, as Don mentioned. So as far as I found, that is my experience, is that normally we have open door policies. Anybody, a junior assistant or coordinator, can meet with the CEO and senior leaders. There is no permission required that you can ask your leader, can I meet with that person or not. And as part of our onboarding in Irving, I know that I did myself this onboarding a lot of times with the immigrant employees that they come, that you can reach out to anybody in this organization that you connect with, and try to put some efforts even to connect with them, and there is no permission required. It was the same in both Irving and in Grayson Energy System, the two different model, more casual and more formal type of organization I worked. I never worked anywhere that I need to get permission, or there's even that in a hierarchical one. It's more, I think, I find it myself, I don't know if there is any organization that you need to get permission, but I find this is part of Canadian culture, you can connect with anybody. And I find that a lot of people, they are very humble and they are not title driven. You can reach out to I can reach out and stop at general manager office and have a very good chat about what I did over the weekend or what he did over the weekend. So it's not really
and on the first name basis.
I call it
And I think the other thing that comes along with that is also the expectation that employees will be proactive, that they will ask for feedback, as has been mentioned, or ask for clarification if you're not clear about what a certain policy or procedure is, and that's the expectation is that the employee will take that.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. Resume time. The question that's highlighted here is, what are the biggest mistakes that newcomers make on their resumes? Quelles sont les plus grandes erreurs que les personnes immigrantes commettent sur leur CV? Who wants to start? Michelle.
I think I already made my point there on that.
All right.
Chronological, put all of your experience on there. Any experience is good experience. I'm not, some people say they write resumes tailored to the job. I'm not a fan of those, but maybe these guys who consult on writing resumes can give you a better answer. There is such a thing as too much on a resume. Like when you get resumes where there's like very little margin and you filled up like literally, you're trying to keep it to 2 pages, so you format it so when you use type like font size 8, you need to make, it's true. I'm recruiting for an IT person right now. Is it just IT people then that do that? Because every resume looks the exact same for an IT person. It is no margins and size 8 font. So, yeah.
This is a question for the group. If every resume looks the same, how do you stand out? Who wants to take this one?
I think that answered that a little bit. Like at the beginning, like there is something about you have your name and your phone number and your LinkedIn profile, and that kind of catchy phrase at the top of like why you're applying for this job or what's motivating you and what's passionate, and don't use the line word for word from ChatGPT because we're figuring that out. And don't use something like that's what you have to figure out something that is unique to you so that it does stand out and it's not just highly driven IT person wants to develop my skills. That doesn't say anything.
So what would be, does anyone have an example to share of someone who did a good job of summing themselves up in a catchy way? Okay.
Well, I don't know if this answers it specifically, but what I prefer in all of my resumes, as Michelle pointed out, make it very easy to read. Because when we're going through a lot of resumes, I don't want to have to search for the information. The most important information should be on the first page, just sort of popping up. But what will help you highlight sort of why I want to continue on reading is I like where it's bullet point. It's not paragraphs. Right, so and don't make them long sentences. Just try to be very to the point and show what your accomplishments are. As Michelle pointed out, I think it was Michelle who pointed out that if you were a cashier, we know what a cashier did. But if you did something, I think it was SEMA or I forget who mentioned that we don't assume that we know what you did back home. So really try to use examples of accomplishments or things, keywords that will help us understand what you did and why how it connects to the job you're applying to.
Can I add something?
So Beth and Nancy.
Okay. So I am a big fan of creativity, and not everybody is. I don't mind pictures on resumes. I know that brings up a whole other debate, but I can find you on LinkedIn and Facebook or wherever. So I don't mind pictures on a resume. I like to see color personally. I like to see something different, unique. People that I work with, I tell them to get a testimonial from a previous employer or a supervisor, add a testimonial, add your favorite quote, add the last book you read, the references part at the bottom. It's a little different. It might be that you know Cindy Como. Right? If it's a
Cindy
personal, everybody knows Cindy Como. If it's back to, so LinkedIn, not everybody spends all their time on LinkedIn. So on your resume, instead of writing references, put down, connections or call it whatever you want, but add some names of people that potentially are 2 degrees of separation to somebody in Moncton. Chances are, if you put down 3 names about people that can give you a testimonial or highlight your work or personality or something, chances are I know them. So those are a few ones.
Thank you. Stephen, and then I think we will open the floor up to questions. We have covered a lot on the list. Yes, that's a good idea. Thanks. We'll get everyone a last word. Yeah.
So as you can see, there are lots of variation and differences, basically tastes that in what the resume should be look like, between among all of us here. And I think that the best way is that not, in my opinion, is that not to overthinking it. Keep your resume the same. Don't hide anything from it. And don't adjust it because some people say, oh, I'm overqualified, or maybe I need to get it a little bit, that I'm bring it to junior or whatever, something like that. Keep it as is, and just adjust your cover letter. The resume shouldn't change, guys, from job to job. You're the same person with the same experience. In the cover letter, you can have millions of different versions that is match why you are a good fit for this job. And I find that in my country, I'm originally Iranian. I remember in my Iranian experience, cover letter was just a fancy thing to have. Not every employer, they read it. But here I noticed that they are reading it. And also when you apply with a large organization like Irving, Blue Cross, or other organization, remember that your resume is going to stay in our system. So you couldn't be once VP of HR and once Director of HR and sometimes HR coordinator. So this is not going to work out, and it's going to basically question your integrity and your honesty to the organization. So adjust your cover letter and don't overthink your resume and think about it. I remember Cindy was connecting me in 2017 with one recruiter in Blue Cross, and she told me that we have a lot of resumes, and we just read the top 20% of first page. We are not reading any part of it. So no matter that you are a perfect resume you have, or you have a average resume, so they are only just that 20% first page is going to be that people they look at it. So that's why the right strategy is that you find a FaceTime with somebody in that organization, and to connect and present yourself and show all of your passion and everything you have. But please, that if you want to take one thing from me this today, do not adjust your resume, because it's really, resume is not adjustable. If I'm a VP of HR in the past, I'm only a VP of HR. I couldn't be somebody else. So just adjust your cover letter, please.
Okay, Allison, your last bit of advice, your last thought. And be thinking of your questions, because as soon as we get back to Bev here, then we'll open the floor to your questions.
So I want to touch on the cover letter since Seema opened that door. When I left my job that I've been at for 12 years in a totally different industry before I came to Magma. I spent a lot of time on my cover letter. Now, the cover letter that I did, and I recommend this to a lot of people when I talk to them, not because you're trying to make a perfect cover letter, but the cover letter format that I chose, so the first paragraph was, this is what I immediately bring to the table. And I thought about what are the things that I can hit the ground running on. The second one was, this has been my past experience that I have. And then I did, the last one was, what am I passionate about in my life and how does that transfer to what I'm doing? That gave me a lot of opportunity to take stock of what I had done in my career and how that could be used for the job that I'm applying for when I look at the job posting. I do that every year, even though I'm not applying for other jobs, just to remind myself of what I've done and how I've done it and what that looks like to employers. So I love a cover letter. So I agree with the cover letter, Seymour.
Thank you. No one will read the resume unless you hold them.
Yeah, I love cover letters. I love to read it. That's the whole story for me. But we haven't touched the point. If somebody is looking for a job, and you are sending a couple hundred resumes, it can happen. Sometimes it has knocked the door. If somebody walks in with a resume, I am more impressed than sending something beautiful. It means that somebody is searching for the company, somebody is looking for the company. So yeah, walk by.
Thanks so much. Carolyn?
I would just say, it's important to understand the culture here and reach out and get to know your fellow Canadians, but don't forget your own. We want to learn from your cultures as well. I've met some wonderful people through the Connector program that have shared with me their stories and their cultures, and so we also want to learn more. But it's a two-way thing, and I encourage you to reach out, take a step, get to know. We all have this tendency. I live in Toronto as well, and so I would reach out and someone from New Brunswick, I know them. I'd be like, I hang out with them all the time. It just so happened that all my circle of friends were from Moncton or from New Brunswick, and so it's in our nature. But if you take that extra step to try to get to know someone else outside of your comfort zone, you might find some nice little opportunities there.
So I hate cover letters. So does Ben. I don't know what you're going to tell you. Sorry. Yeah. So let me reword. I dislike generic cover letters, which 95% of cover letters are. So Carolyn just said, I'll read a cover. Yeah. So Allison, you did have really good points. Carolyn just said to me, I read the cover letter after the resume, so do I. So if I like the resume, then I go read the cover letter. And what's so disappointing is when you open the cover letter, and it's just the resume in a different format. And they told you everything. So in a cover letter, what I'm looking for is I really want to know why you applied for the job. I really want to know why you want to come and work here. I want to know what is it about my company that interests you. And maybe it's something you heard about us or you know somebody. And I mean, this isn't totally particular in this room, but if you have friends from outside of Moncton and they're applying for jobs here, and so their resume says they live in Toronto or Montreal, tell me why you want to move to Moncton in the cover letter. Like, that's your opportunity, so do it. So that's why most cover letters are not well written, which is why HR people are like, the other part about the walk-ins, HR people some love walk-ins and some people don't. Again, it's if you do it right. So if you're going to come in, you're going to interrupt my day, and you go, I'm here to apply for a job, and I go, what job? Any job? No, how about be prepared? You're presenting yourself. Be your best self. Be prepared what job. And then if you give me your resume, and I take it, but let's say I say, can you go and apply online? And you go, well, no, here's my resume. And I say, yeah, I'm going to take it, but I'd still like you to apply online. And you kind of fight me on that. That means you don't follow direction very well. is, like, HR people have a process. Like, we do have an applicant tracking system. It's how we keep ourselves organized. You know, so I do like your resume, but if I ask you to apply, you know, just go apply online too. It'll be so much easier for me to share the resume with the manager. So, you know, there's nothing wrong with doing all of it and following direction.
I'd like to add something. On the cover letter, don't say, because I need a job.
No.
I said I wasn't gonna bring up cover letter, I'm not even talking about cover letter. I normally wave a lot of stuff, it's like a little secret I have, but I keep so prepared today. And there were so many questions we didn't get to, so I'm gonna do like a real zip through because I think it was all important. So one of the questions that came up was about recruitment timelines and trying to understand when you expect to hear something or if you expect to hear something from, you know, the company you're applying with. So oftentimes when you apply for a job, you'll recognize you'll get no communication back. Like you have no idea, did they get it, did they not get it? You will never find out. Chances are it's going into some cloud ATS system. Nobody's going to send you a confirmation. Just like walk-ins, we're probably all over the map with what we think about emails, direct emails saying, applicant tracking systems. Everybody knows what an applicant tracking system is? ATS, okay, yeah. To reach out and say, did you get my resume? You may or may not hear back. So anyway, we'd be all over the map on that one. If you do have an interview, at the end, if it wasn't discussed what the timeline was for hearing back or whether you would hear back, whether you were successful or not, it is okay to ask. Can you give me a time frame? It's also okay to say, if I don't hear from you by that timeline, can I reach out to you with an email or a follow-up? You'll be able to read the room, whether they're hesitant or not. And it's okay to send an email if you're really interested in that job, then it's okay to follow up. So that's on the timeline. The other question came up about getting feedback if you've not been successful for a job. So we get these questions all the time. You know, we say, we're sorry, we weren't the successful candidate. The candidate writes back and says, you know, I appreciate your message. Can you give me some feedback? The problem from our perspective is we don't want to get boxed into a situation where we're always afraid that there's going to be a human rights complaint brought against us because we've discriminated against a candidate. So we're very fearful of that feedback. And as I was thinking about this when I kind of came to the thought, I was like, if somebody said to me, can you tell me one thing that I did that really impressed you? Ask, is there one thing that I did that was inappropriate or awkward, or, and maybe not even, or maybe not even ask that question, but maybe the second question is, what advice would you give me as a job seeker looking for a job in New Brunswick? So ask those two questions. One, what did I do that really impressed you? And two, what advice, asking for advice, chances are you're going to get that sensitive, potentially human rights question in there, so I would ask those two questions. The other question that came up was about negotiating salaries. And I thought that was really important because I think salaries is an awkward conversation for most employees, not just candidates applying and then going through a negotiation, but also for employees. So it's another thing that we're doing as a consultant is working with employers to be better at having a chance that if people don't talk to you about salaries, it's not because they're trying to be secretive, they don't know. They have no idea what their salary structure is. They don't know what happens when people get increases. They don't have a strategy. So if they're being aloof and not telling you something, it's not because they're trying to be secretive. And they may not give you a specific salary number, but they'll ask for a range, never ask for a specific number. And if they ask you, what are your salary expectations, you can say, my range is, you know, X, this amount. But it's based on some data, because I know that is what is the norm in my industry. We often ask, you know, is there an amount that is appropriate for the lifestyle that you know, we all have bills to pay, right? It's not that none of us are overpaid. Is anybody here overpaid? No? Okay. So, you know, we're just looking to make ends meet and make sure that our bills are paid. And so then negotiating at time of offer, it's okay to negotiate at time of offer. If they've offered you a certain amount and you want to negotiate a different amount, it's okay to do that at that time. If you're not able to come to the number that you are comfortable with, it is also okay to negotiate other things like benefits. And maybe there's a split, maybe it's a 50-50 split. It's okay to say, is there any room to negotiate that? Could it be a 75-50 or 25 split? It's okay to negotiate on vacation time. It's okay to negotiate on pension contributions. So there are some other things that it's okay to negotiate on if you can't come to terms on this salary piece. And the last question that I thought was really cool was, is there anything that a candidate did that was unconventional or different or odd that actually worked in their favor? And so I really had to think about this one. I thought it was a really cool question. And there were 3 things that came to mind. One, we had a candidate one time bring Starbucks coffee for the interview team. And I don't drink coffee, but I was still like, that's cool. That doesn't happen very often, does it?
No.
So, and it's not considered a bribe here. Okay? Like it would be considered a genuine show of gratitude for, and it doesn't have to be coffee, or it can be anything, even a little anything. Chocolates, girl, chocolates, but that would be something that we don't see very often. The other thing is the follow-up thank you. I'm sure you're all told to send a follow-up after an interview to say thank you. Dropping off a handwritten thank you card is not the norm. So if you take the time to write a card and drop it off, you don't have to ask to see Michelle because she does not have time to see you, but you can say, could you please just make sure this card gets to Michelle? So whoever interviewed you, just drop it off and say, could you please make sure this gets to so-and-so? That is a wow. And the last thing I'll say, back to the volunteering, some of the best candidates that I have said no to were the ones that said, are there any volunteer opportunities within the organization? I'm that passionate about the company that I still would like to give back, and it's a way for them to get to know you. So it's okay to ask, that's great, thank you, but I would still like to get involved, so find opportunities to maybe volunteer. Okay.
Well, thank you all, and how about a round of applause for our panel?
We have 11 minutes. Please ask brief, concise questions that will be useful for everyone. Okay? We're gonna ask quick, answer quick, and try to ask enough until it's 8.
Well, thank you for taking your time to come to this event. My question, I'll be quick about it. So basically, AI is everywhere in our lives, and especially in the HR tech. So my question is, do you usually use AI in your tools at work, especially when it comes to the ATS and tracking candidates? And when resumes get rejected by the firewall of AI, do you usually try to recheck the resumes and verify? Thank you.
Great question. I use an ATS every day, so I think the first step. So I'm not using AI as much as I probably could. So I know AI is being used a lot. It's also not. If that makes any sense. There are still a lot of people, particularly in organizations, that are scared to use AI because it's their company's network, and so they're not sure. I think even some companies have a block on AI. They still can't use it because the company's still not comfortable with it. So we tried a trial of using AI in our ATS. Personally, I didn't like it. I don't know if maybe that helps you as a candidate or not, and so we did use it. We're starting to get in though to when we're doing interviews, particularly we always start with a phone interview, that there's an AI note taker, so that allows the recruiter to be more present and ask, and sometimes it can prompt you to ask follow-up questions, so that's good. In terms of the firewall kicking out your resume, I don't know that it did that. So that's, I think, comes back to if you're able to follow up with someone in the organization of like, did you receive my resume? We'll be able to find out. I mean, I had this with a candidate last week. They had, because some ATS have what they call knockout questions. So you answer a couple of questions, and if you did meet the requirement, the resume doesn't even come through. So I had a candidate, found me on LinkedIn, saw our mutual connection, went to that person and said, can you contact Michelle and see if they've received my resume? And I didn't. And so they sent it to me by email. And so I'm glad that they did. I'm moving them forward in the process. So hopefully that answers your question.
Okay, mine is, what would you say is the ideal time frame to apply for a job after it's been posted? Within a day, an hour, or even sooner? This is because sometimes we see a job post and it says, or you fall asleep the next day and you wake up and it says 500 applicants. And you're like, should I apply? So
Yeah. Question, who wants to take that?
I don't think there's an ideal time. If you look at the deadline, when most of them say apply by this date, and if you don't feel like your resume is up to date and you need to work on it before you send it, take the time before you send it. And it doesn't matter if there's 500 applicants. Those 500 applicants might be eliminated from the first question. So never hesitate. You have nothing to lose.
Hi everyone, I am Rija Adami and I'm a student at Crandall at the moment. Thank you so much for all of you. Whatever you guys have been saying, it has been a great help. So I had one question, but after Starbucks coming up, I get two questions now. Okay, so coming with the easy one, the Starbucks one. Because nobody brings coffee for people, so that was something that was really unique to you guys and maybe you got the attention. But would that come into flattering somebody, flattery or something? Like there's a thin line, because I don't know, maybe everybody sitting in the room is going next day bringing coffee. So it becomes a cliche and then everybody's putting us out. Yeah. First question that. My second question is that we have been talking about ATS a lot. Even in our university, like it's just my second month in Moncton, and I have been hearing this word a lot. And we are being teach that how we have to make resumes that are ATS friendly. So what if my resume is being kicked out by ATS? So what are the things I should do in order not to be kicked off? Because I know that sometimes my personality or my experience is not even going to the HR professionals, just like Michelle just mentioned. She didn't know that person and still she is going on with the resume. It means that the person had potential. So like how to get not being kicked out of ATS and how to have that next step and introducing yourself and introducing your personality. Like how to fight with that AI ATS thing. Right. Thank you.
Okay. So I have interviewed thousands of people. I say that. I've been in the HR space for 25 years, so I have interviewed a ton of people. It was not until this one interview in 2024, the first time I've ever had a candidate bring treats to an interview. It is not common practice. And as I said, it is, from my perspective, because I love tea, by the way, it is not, it's not a bribe. Now, you have to make it genuine, and you don't go over the top. Even though you've heard it here today, the likelihood that people will actually do something is not as great as you think. I personally think just some people have that norm, that practice inside of them to give. And so, yeah, I would appreciate, again, make it, and talk about it amongst your friends or reach out to an HR person, what would be appropriate. And a follow-up thank you card would be just as seen as, to me, just as valuable. But I like tea.
I can answer the ATS question. I'll also say, I've interviewed, let's go with hundreds of people, and I've had one person bring food once. He worked at Dalma, and he brought guacamole. And yes, it stood out, and we didn't hire him. We didn't hire him because of the guacamole. We hired him because he had a of transferable skills. He's from Brazil, had transferable skills, and is doing awesome. But he's a foodie, like, so he loves food, and he brings food into work all the time, so I guess it kind of shows me he's like, so, yeah, don't be shy. So the ATS thing, so listen, I'm learning from you guys tonight. It's funny that you mentioned that you're learning so much about an ATS. I mean, it's just a tool that HR people use, and it's not supposed to be a tool that's a problem for you guys. So I'm totally tomorrow checking my ATS and gonna say, how many people are you kicking out, and is there a problem here? I mean, and ATSs, there's all different kinds. So like, I know the one I use, like I've never applied to a job at my own company, so maybe I don't even know the questions it's asking, but you do get to upload your resume. And that's the part there's 3 of us on staff who do recruitment, and we jump straight to your resume that you uploaded. So if you can upload your resume, like do that, because there's always the option. I can also go and download it and open it up into the Word or PDF document that you uploaded in. Always upload in PDF, quick tip, not Word, upload in PDF. So hopefully people aren't getting knocked out of the system. I mean, we have the ATS for a reason. We want people to apply for jobs. So I guess my advice to you is follow all the prompts. Don't try and skip it. Don't try and outsmart the system, because some IT programmer built it that way, and don't mess that up. And make sure you upload a real copy of your resume, and hope, I'm sure we'll see, and then do the follow-up if you can. Just the quick yes or no. Did you receive my resume? Yes, I did. You'll be contacted if you meet the criteria. Does anyone want to add something?
I think we have one more question. Time for one more question.
We have 2 more minutes.
Okay.
Quick.
Thank you, everyone. It's been amazing. I've learned something unique from everyone sitting down, and I'm sure it's the same for most people. So my question is, open to work. So on LinkedIn, I've heard different controversies about how recruiters would rather candidates put open to work, so that if they apply back end, they can see that that person is actually open to work, or open to work, like the whole open to work tag. So what is your preference? Are you indifferent if people put in open to work, or it makes it easier when you're doing the shortlisting?
Is it good or desperate?
Oh my God, people are overcomplicating things. Like, oh my, desperate. No, it's there for a reason. I don't know. I feel like I've talked a lot. I'll let someone else answer. But like, who said keep it simple? Like, so who's giving you this advice? Like, this is overcomplicating things. Like, there's a hashtag open to work. Like, it's great. You want a job. I don't know. Does someone have anything?
1 minute, 1 more question.
I don't even look at that, just so you know. And if I've met you here and I think you're a great candidate and you'd be a great fit for my organization, whether you say you're open to work or not, I will reach out to you and say, hey, if we have an opportunity, if not, I would love you to come work with us.
Thank you. Very last question, and then we will head to our networking shortly.
Hello everyone, my name is Harman. I work at YWCA as HR manager, and we don't have any ATS system or any team. It's just me, just one person who is. Yeah. So I just want to make sure I'm doing justice to my organization as well as the candidates, because I work for a non-profit. I need to make sure that I'm taking care of everything. I'm a social worker too, so I have to make sure that I'm doing things right. So what if the hiring manager says, so I received like 50, 60, 70 CVs, right, on Indeed, and the hiring manager says, I just want to interview one person or 2 people, just these 2. So is it okay to do that and not looking at other CVs, or I am very confused. I'm not sure if I'm doing the right thing.
Harman, a lot of times it happens for us too, that work that in Irving. And it's really important that we are showing more curiosity and challenging very respectfully the hiring manager to understand what's the reason behind that they don't want to go with other candidates or they don't want to look at it. And also, as much as you can, try to influence positively on them. That I would like to still that if you are considering these 2, you have a look at this and give opportunity to this individual to present themselves. So I have a lot of examples that the hiring manager, after seeing the candidate, they change their mind. But we are all human and we all have our biases, and it's really natural that can happen. Oh, I have somebody in my mind that I really badly want to have this person. But still, I use my coaching, I wear my coaching hat, show curiosity and challenging very respectfully and influence positively on them.
If I can just add to that, as an HR person, as a fellow HR person, I know when we do recruitment, we do a lot of pre-screening calls. So I will meet with way more candidates in a quick virtual interview than I will candidates that I'll actually bring to the, so I'll only bring 2 or 3 or maybe 4 really great candidates to the interview, because I've done all the pre-screening. So even if you had a goal to say, you know what, if we receive 60 resumes, let's pick 10. If let's say you were like, I don't know, there's just something unique about these 10, so you can meet them, you can ask them some basic questions, and then yes, bring the top 2 recommended to the interview, the actual interview, and make sure they do a presentation. That's what I mean.
Thank you for those great questions. Merci pour vos questions. Over to Kat, who's going to set up the networking time for us.
Okay, thank you so much. You have no idea what you've done. Like, all these questions were in the back of my head, in people's surveys. It's really a good place to answer those. And I wish I had 6 hours, since I know there's way more questions. But this is a good start. This is a good start. And we really, really appreciate you all. Thank you to Dawn for facilitating this. Please, another round. We are going to have an hour for networking now. So preferably everybody leaves at 9. Correct? And please, I don't know, a lot of you met me personally over Teams in person, and I always say you are each other's network as well. Please don't disregard, or what's the other word? Like, don't network with each other too. Don't crowd the panelists. They're going to be networking with everyone, but if you're standing in line to talk to one, you're missing out on a lot of opportunities to connect with other people in the room. Their names are on the desks. I hope they're okay, for you to reach out on LinkedIn or something, we'll see. We can go. Thank you so much again. Please don't crowd the spaces where people walk. There is a lot of space over there.